Hi, everybody. My name is Li Kui. I'm the information manager for Santa Barbara Coastal Long-Term Ecological Research Group. Today, I want to share with you a tool or a workflow called EXCEL-To-EML. This is a tool that I built recently. And what is EML? EML stands for Ecological Metadata Language. This is an XML document commonly used in your data publication process. This EXCEL-To-EML tool is a tool that you input the metadata in the Excel template, and then I help you generate an EML from the content you fill in the metadata data table. So this is a tool not only help you generating EML for your ecological data publication, but also help you managing the metadata. So what this tool can help you, if you are interested in publishing an ecological data set, and if the repository you use require an EML document, this will be a great tool for you to speed up the process of generating this EML document. And also, in addition to that, if you want to manage the metadata for all your data sets, you might have a 20, 30, or 50 data sets you need to archive. So this is function as a central location for hosting all the metadata for each of your data set. So you have a place that you can manage all your metadata together. So there are two components in this EXCEL-To-EML tool. The first is the Excel workbook, and this workbook including 10 different sheets, and each of the sheet including a component in the EML node. So if you're familiar with the EML, when you look at a sheet, you will be able to tell which component will go where. And there's also a series of R functions and also the R squared for each of the data package. So there are two main functions here. One is the R code will go read all the contents from the Excel workbook and push into an EML generation workflow and generate EML out of it. And the second function of the R code is you also have a smart detection function. This is smart R script can detect the format of the CSV or text file that you're about to publish. In addition, if you have any special formatting, a non-tabular data, for example, a TIFF format or a zip format or a PDF format data, you want to archive it, this R square will able to detect the MIME type for those special data type and also automatically fill in some sections in the EML so you don't have to worry about it. Where is this tool? This tool currently on GitHub, and please follow the address on there. And if you have time today or later, you want to explore this tool, this is a place to go. And you can download the folder, the main folder structure within this repository, including on this screen here. So there's a one README file which show you the primary steps you need to take to generate EML. Also has a list of things that you need to get done in order to do that. For example, you need to install the package correctly, and you need to include the abstract and methods for each of the data set you want to archive in. And the project 100 and project 99 here are the examples that I want to show you how I fill out the metadata and what document required in each of those packages in order for you to generate EML. So the metadata folder here is the place for that Excel workbook I talk about. So if you go into this folder, you will see Excel workbooks with about 10 data sheets within that workbook, and you need to fill out almost all of those cells in order to generate the EML. And also the EML generation folder here, those are the three functions that are running in the background when you generate the EML. I hope you never need to touch these functions because they already satisfy the basic EML structure. However, if you need to have some special attributes or special notes for your EML document because some convention from your organization, that is a place you need to go in and make changes. So this is my contact information. During this exercise or during your exercise after this presentation. If you find out any questions, you're welcome to contact me. I'd be happy to chat with you or even help you debug if there's anything goes wrong. And there's one thing here. If you do have some special needs for your EML document, for example, you may not like to add multiple missing values for your data set because there's a convention in your organization, I'm happy to work with you. If you send me an email, then we can upgrade the code as needed. So for the rest of the presentation here, I'm gonna show you step by step how I generate EML for a simple data set that I want to show you here. And if you like to follow my presentation, you're welcome to do so. So I'm gonna turn off the PowerPoint here. I want to show you this is the folder. If you download the GitHub repository for this EXCEL-To-EML tool, this is the folder you will see on your desktop. And this is an example CSV, a data table I want to generate EML out of it today. And so how do I do it? First, I open this folder. And these are the folder structures you see during my presentation. And in order to generate EML for this one, I want to create a new project for it. So I want to create a project called Project 100. You can call project 1000 or 2000. It doesn't really matter. As long as this number match the project ID inside this metadata that you're about to write it down, that'd be great. So once you have this folder, you want to dump the CSV in it. And also, you want to go copy a few things from the example folder. So we want abstract, methods, and project. So let's make a copy and paste. So these are the required documents and script you needed for generating EML for this CSV. And here's the process we need to do. First, change this to 100. And then you also want to write abstract for this data package. You want to delete everything from the previous example. And this is a place for abstract. You can have a lot better abstract than this example. I cannot guess what your abstract and what your method is. So you just have to write it yourself. And so in this method section, you can see that this EML generation workflow is able to handle the species names. It's able to handle this title format and also multiple paragraph and also some reference at the bottom. So you can use those as an example of what a format you can expect during the time you write your methods. But I also want to mention there's two formats. So far the workflow as of today, we cannot handle it. One is the bold text, which is this one, and also the hyperlink. So we cannot handle these two as of today, but later, hopefully we can improve the code in order to handle these two special formats from the Word document. So anyway, this is a place for methods. You can document your methods for how you're collecting the data set here. So we turn it off, and of course, the project code. So the project code will including a very simple piece of code that go find the source of all the functions that I talk about in the EML generation folder. Hopefully you never need to touch any of those functions. And the rest of them are like standard process of generating EML. So what do we need to change for the new package? You want to change the package ID, the dataset ID, which is that comes out 100. And you also want to change the folder path, where the folder path is. Right now it sits on my desktop, so this is what I have for the path, but you may put it in different folders. So make sure the EXCEL-To-EML folder specific path you want to put it here. So once you make sure these two are right, click Save and Minimize for later. So now what do we need to do? We have all the file required, and we need to get into the metadata folder to fill out the metadata information for this data set. Just a note here. Here has a big README file, which tell you very detailed about every single column in this metadata workbook. So if you have any question of what this metadata sheet looks like and what each of the column means, then you can read through the README file here. Okay, let's start filling out the metadata templates here. So for the dataset 100 that we just decide to call it dataset 100, the alternate ID, this is the one depends on the data repository that you use. If you use Environmental Data Initiative as a data repository for your data archive, the general syntax is EDI dot some sort of dataset numbers. But if you use other data repository, I cannot really generalize what should go in here, depends on your data repository. So assuming you have some sort of domain from your repository, you have some numbers from that. And so this will be your dataset ID, which will be used in the package ID element in the ENO. So the version could be version 1 at the beginning, the first archive. Later, when you want to update it, you can increase that number. Title, for demonstration purpose, I'm gonna symbolize this step. For the temporal coverage, please go ahead and check your data set. But because I know this data set very well, I know it's from January 2008, and I know it was ended around February 2018. Pop day, we can put it today or a future day, depends on when you want to push this email into the repository. Maintenance, this is a place you can put, it's an ongoing data set with annual update, or this is a complete, so just one time only, or you need to update it every half year or something. So boilerplate setting, what that means, that also depends on your data repository. So I put the information here because you don't normally need to change. If you archive through EDI, the scope here could be EDI or LTER. If you archive it through some other repository, you can put the other repositories such as KMB. If you don't have any particular ones, you can even delete it at all. You don't have to have any of those. If your repository don't have a special requirement on the headspace or access node, then you can do that. Oh, so you can play around this too. For example, if you don't know anything about it, I recommend you just put down KMB and leave that blank and using a CC BY. That's a recommendation. Save it, and this is setting 2 for this boilerplate setting. So we go back to the data set and put in the setting 2. So because you expect you're not going to change too much, maybe you have 1 or 2 setting maximum for during your data management lifetime. So I put that in a separate tab just to easy to keep track of. So project PIs, what's a PI for your project? I make it up. Funding title, some sort of NSF funding or NOAA funding. So this is information. And dataset entity. So dataset entity, this is again dataset 100 and dataset positions 1. And there's a data table because we remember we have a 1 CSV table. The entity names is giant kelp. You can give it a beautiful name or a more complete name. Entity description can be slightly more descriptive than the entity name. So it could be giant kelp count. And file type, right now you don't need to fill in anything. But later for our EML2 development, we might use this file type for you to specify what kind of CSV or what kind of text format you have. But for now, as today, you don't have to fill this out. URL path, you don't have to fill this out either if you don't have any public accessible data location. But if you do, this is the place you can put in. And the file name is, I remember that file name, cap.csv. Let's double check to make sure it's actually correct. Camel case, giant cat underscore CSV, yes, that's what we want. And so we save it and then move on to the next tab. So next tab is a place to put down the column information for your data set. The 99 is a pretty complicated data set that including 3 data tables. And also each table has a lot of columns here. But for this demonstration data set, and let's take a look at the demonstration data set and what we have in there. So I open it in the text editor because if sometimes when you open in the Microsoft Excel, it will give you some error on how you want the date to be shown. So if you open in a text editor, you pretty much can tell what's the datetime format looks like. If you open it in Excel, sometimes it may change your datetime format for of appearance. So here, entity position, because we only have one entity, so it will be pure just one. 100, remember we have 4 columns, we need to create 4 rows here. So attribute name will be date, site. The easiest way you can copy and paste, and so that will not create any errors. Scientific name. So you can have a more detailed descriptive language here for each of your columns. I'm just gonna put some simple description here. Site code, kelp count, scientific name, it's kind of obvious. So here, datetime format, you want to pick the date. Site code, you want to put character. Kelp count is a numerical variable. Scientific name is also a character. And so in a situation that if you have maybe 2 or 3 species, you have a 2 or 3 scientific name, you may want to put into a categorical variable. If you put in a categorical variable, make sure you remember to define each of the category in this tab, next tab. But for us, we only have 1 species. We don't really need to define what category is in this column. So I put it as a character. So for the datetime format, we can see here is month, day, and 2-digit year. Format string, we don't need it for any other class, only for the datetime format. Units only necessary for the numerical variable. So unit for this count is special because it doesn't really have a unit. You can put it as a dimensionless, or here it also accept it's just a number without the unit. And the precision for the numerical is 1 because its count is how many individuals. And the number type is integer. Missing value. This data set, it's very common that I like to use -9999 for the missing value, but you may be filling NA. Some of the data set may have NA, but this one, I like to use 9999 and means values, it's not available. So we're done with this attribute tab. And the code definition, we don't have it for this data set. Keywords, for easy, I just gonna put in giant kelp. Of course, you can have other keywords as how you want to specify. You can also go into those organizations to grab the wording or the terminology that's specific to their organization, including in your keyword set. So we can increase the accessibility and searchability of your data set. But for this demonstration purpose, again, make it simple. This is the keyword that you want to put in. And also dataset personnel. So before filling out that, make sure you have your personnel list in this list of peoples. So I have a few of them, including me and my colleagues in this table. Of course, once you increase the number of your dataset, you're likely to increase the creator's information. So all your personnel's complete address and zip code and email address get put in this location. If you had to put in, here's a people ID. So go back to the personnel table to fill in just the people ID. So for dataset 100, make sure that for every dataset, there at least is one creator and one contact. So these two are required in the EML document. So for creator, I put in myself. For the contact, you normally put in the organization, but for now, I still put in myself. For the dataset attribute, or for the site attribute, this is a site coordinate. So site location. And you can put in a polygon, which has a different north, south, east, west bound. Or you can put it as a point, which mainly just the same south, north bound and the same east bound. Please put in the format as a coordinate degrees so that EML can read. So this is all we need to put in for this particular data set that I show example. And now let's launch the R script that you saw earlier and make sure the library you install correctly with the latest version, and make sure folder paths are match whatever you had put this folder in, and the dataset ID is 100. So we highlight it from top to bottom and run. Look at these smiling faces. It tells you it successfully generate EML for you, and it generates in the same folder as you have with all your data sets. So if you launch your folder, this is the EML document you generated. And so you can open it, take a look, or you can send it to the online EML validation and see if the value or not through the first check and the EML process, in the EML generation process. Because it has smiling face, it means that you pass the basic validation for this EML. So that's it. That's how you generate the EML for a data set. If you scroll down, you will see all the components that come in from the Excel that you just fill in. So this is EML. So next step is you use this EML, use the CSV, and you are able to push your data into the repository that you like. And so this is today's demonstration. If you have any questions, let's discuss and send me an email or ask me on the ESA so we can chat about it. Okay, thank you for listening. Hope to see you soon. Bye.